Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Danielle Noyes here for the 1 Degree Outside Weather Network with your Noyes notes on this Thursday. It's still humid out there, but it's a little less oppressive than yesterday. We had dew points that were well into the 70s, and today they've come down just a notch. And if you're sensitive to the humidity, you will notice the difference just a little bit today. There's high surf too, so you want to use caution at the beaches. 4 to 7 foot waves in spots, and that will increase the risk of rip currents too. We'll talk more about in a second. Areas of rain Friday night into Saturday. We're still watching that with localized flooding potential that we'll touch on more later on today. In the meantime, it has been an active overnight in parts of northern New England and 24 hours. This is the rainfall totals in far northern New England, where we've seen over 3 inches. Burlington, St. Johnsbury, Berlin, New Hampshire, with that swath extending into north central Maine. And notice some of the deeper oranges and reds in here. Matt highlighted this yesterday, but there have been some localized amounts over 4 and 5 inches in a few locations. So the risk of flooding continues in those areas of the far north country here, but it will be a much quieter day overall in terms of the radar in those spots. All right, highs today, 85 to 90. The clouds in place this morning and a couple of showers and downpours will depart, giving way to sunshine, though there may be some stubborn clouds over southeastern Massachusetts and the Cape with some breaks of sun. Will be a little bit cooler, relatively speaking, because of that, running in the 80s in those areas. Upper 80s to lower 90s here, all the way from southern Vermont into southern New Hampshire seacoast. Lower 90s here, the Route 2 corridor, Merrimack Valley. Mid to upper 80s for the Lakes region, 75 to 80 in far northern New England. Many of us running in the 80s across the Pine Tree State today, although with some more clouds and some departing rain, will actually be a tad cooler, running in the 70s from the crown of Maine back to the seacoast. In the meantime, humid, low 80s on the Cape today. If you're thinking about the beach, upper 80s in a lot of spots. UV index will be high in most areas, although in southeastern Massachusetts, the Cape will be a little bit lower with some stubborn clouds, at least for the first half of the day at least. Again, those waves are going to be high. Late afternoon high tide. 30% chance of a shower or downpour. That's greatest this morning, and then it's just an isolated chance later on. Meanwhile, the rip current risk is high across the board in southern New England. It's low when you get from the seacoast to the coast of Maine, but I've highlighted southern New England here. You can see that legend. Moderate rip current risk in many areas and a high risk for the outer Cape, the National Seashore, the south coast of Nantucket and the Vineyard, and then when you get near Narragansett Bay, back over to Block Island as well. So keep that in mind, particularly with the kiddos at the beaches today. That rip current risk is going to be life-threatening spots. All right, let's talk about the predictive radar. We're talking about these showers and downpours that are out there this morning in spots, exiting by late morning. Couple of downpours will continue in the North Country today. Again, not that widespread area of rain like we had yesterday, but there'll be this hit or miss action in far northern New England that will refire up here through the early to mid-afternoon. A couple of storms could be on the stronger side in far northern Vermont, New Hampshire, or central Maine, and a few of them may sneak into central New England here during the late afternoon and evening hours. Notice southern New England, we're generally removed from the action today, though there may be a shower or downpour from time to time on Cape Cod, particularly during the afternoon to evening hours. Overnight tonight, we clear the skies out temporarily. There'll be some, again, low clouds and fog on the Cape and some clouds in northern New England. Temperatures, though, dip lower than they've been the past several nights, running in the 60s for many of us to lower 70s when you get closer to the coastline. The wind will be a little bit gusty, and by the way, out there today, it'll gust at times to 20 to 35 miles per hour. What about the rest of the week? We're going to take you through the weekend in more detail in our Insights video coming up in a bit.